What's up, guys? It's Nextnator41 here, and I got this quick video explaining the rules of the internet. Anyway, enough intro. In my Discord video, I briefly touched on Discord etiquette, but virtual manners have been around for a while, and while they differ depending on what social media platform you use, one constant is that there will probably be some kind of rules and guidelines system to follow and cultivate a healthy environment. But the rules I'm going to talk about today aren't really meant to be followed or broken per se, but they rather act as either, advice to internet newcomers or just, kind of theorems or whatever. I think it's the right word for it. They just they're statements that just gets proven time and time again, as we're going to see. Now, there's some dispute over what exactly the rules of the internet are, but seemingly the most commonly accepted rule set was one made by the anons over on 4chan sometime in the late 2000s. So let's go through that first. There's this one document. There's 47 rules on it, posted into 4chan around 2007 or so. It's pretty popular. It's if you think of rules of the internet, it's the one that comes up. So this is the one we're gonna start out with, this one, and then this is the main one I'm gonna be going on, and then at the end I'm gonna go through some bonus rules that I found on TV tropes and some but for now it's we're gonna focus on the main four. So anyway, let's get into it. Rule 1: do not talk about /b. Rule 2: do not talk about /b. And this is obviously referring to 4chan's /b board, aka random. I'm gonna follow this rule and not talk about it. Just kidding, I actually broke it in my last video. The board is infamous for being a wild west, where the only things you can't post are stuff that violates US law. It's been around since 2003, and it's been the birthplace of some of the most popular memes in the late 2000s and early 2010s. However, as 4chan expanded from being a niche ragtag community of those mainstream society labeled as outsiders to whatever cluster it is now, the board itself changed as well. Or at least I assume it did. I don't and never really have used 4chan, but hey, how bad could it be? Okay, guys, it is currently September 17th, 2023, 5:30 a.m. Now let's see what we get. Okay, what the is that? Okay, I'm out of here. Not in the site anymore. I'm out. Okay. Well, so not even halfway through scrolling down the board, that's 10 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go vomit, cry in the corner, and try to unsee, while you stop watching this video, log off your computer, seize the rest of the day with some in-person friends, and, make some friends if you don't have any. Forget this ever happened, and we'll both come back same time tomorrow to finish the rest of the video. See, guys? That's called foreshadowing. Go to the ad. I said go to the fucking ad! Rule 3: we are anonymous. Rule 4: anonymous is legion. Rule 5: anonymous never forgives. Rule 6: anonymous can be a horrible, senseless, uncaring monster. Rule 7: anonymous is still able to deliver. Formed on 4chan in 2003, Anonymous is a group of hackers who do it for the lulz. They like to engage in a mild amount of trolling. They act as the great equalizers, and I wouldn't screw with them if I was you, as they're known to be unpredictable, although they generally are against censorship and corruption. They've managed to start beef by interfering with official government websites of all these countries, and that's not even scratching the surface of all their notable achievements. They've solidified themselves as a unit in the internet history books, and while they seem to have slowed down more recently, they still show up sometimes to dish out justice. Rule 8: there are no real rules about posting. From a 4chan context, this more refers to the lack of rules on the site and how with each passing day, anons have discovered new breeds of dumb, not previously thought to be possible. In general, some of the most viral posts on social media sites can be pretty much anything. There's no way to exactly predict what's going to become the next big meme, and that's kind of the fun of it. There are some sites that are better suited for certain types of posts. Might make a video about that some other time, but pretty much anything can blow up. Whether it be a typo, witty comeback, a long copy pasta, or just a post on the most random ass thing you could think of. People have tried and failed to artificially stir up viral memes. These are forced memes and are almost never funny, except for when they're used in unintentional ways. Although recently it seems like corporations have caught on to this and are trying to act more self-aware, and while statistically the sample size is large enough to produce a few outliers, most of the time this doesn't work and results in cringe. Rule 9. There are no real rules about moderation either. Enjoy your ban! The users and moderators of a site kind of act like a yin and yang. One exists to equalize the other, and it's a constant arms race over seeing what users can get away with posting versus who mods can get away with banning. Remember the Newton's third law or something? For every instance a user gets away with breaking the rules in terms of service, there's an equal and opposite scenario where a user gets unfairly banned despite doing nothing wrong. Anyone who does get away with breaking the rules usually does so under the radar and can't fly too close to the sun or tell too many people about it, or lots of people will start doing it, drawing all the attention to you. In a way, it's kind of like arbitrage in the stock market, which is when you can make money by buying a commodity and then immediately selling it in a different market where it's worth more. Eventually, everyone will figure out this exploit for free money, and all the sellers flooding the new market will drive the price back down to an equilibrium, and you won't have an opportunity anymore. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, even if you get away with it, eventually someone will make an internet documentary about what you did 10 to 15 years later after you build a life for yourself and let your guard down, so maybe think twice before posting. Rule 10. If you enjoy any rival sites, don't. What are you, a fucking Redditor? Not completely sure about this rule, but I think it means that 4chan is supposed to be the ultimate image board, and the anons in the community need to have undying loyalty to a unified site in order to survive against its larger enemies. The site has come together and been able to do some internet sleuthing throughout the years, like being able to geoguess locations based on almost no data. Like, I think there's this one time they found someone's location looking at the direction of the sun and clouds or something. Rule 11. All your carefully picked arguments can easily be ignored. I don't even need to explain this one. I will say though, it's important to keep in mind that there are enough good takes to go around so that absolutely everyone, even the broken clocks, will still show the right time twice a day. Even if someone is batshit insane and you hate everything about them, they could still be right on something, as inexplicable as it sounds. Now, that doesn't mean we should always listen to anyone in particular, since, especially for these broken clocks, when they're wrong, they're really fucking wrong. But you shouldn't immediately dismiss what someone says based on stuff that has nothing to do with what else they said. Rule 12. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Rule 13. Anything you say can be turned into something else. Fixed. Digging up old posts from 10 years ago, misconstruing, taking out of context, even faking screenshots. It's basically the peak cancel culture experience. It's very easy to cherry pick the endless information on the internet and mold it into your own narrative. Whether your intentions are to make a video essay but are too lazy to do actual research, to maliciously slander someone, or to spread misinformation, which has become a big problem recently. Not only can it be hard to tell sometimes if something's real or not, but it's also hard to tell the intentions of the person behind the screen posting it. Are they trolling? Do they genuinely mean what they're saying? Or are they just drunk? Rule 14. Do not argue with trolls. It means that they win. These days, a lot of people seem to forget this basic rule. Literally, the goal of trolls is to piss you off, so you give them an over-the-top reaction that they can then turn into a copy pasta. Either that, or just to waste your time. Time and time again, people feed the trolls and give them attention and clout they don't deserve and wouldn't have gotten if everyone had just ignored them. As soon as you start letting them get in your head and start furiously typing a response, you've already lost. That's it. They got their goal. Words hurt sometimes. I completely get it, and I've felt that way before. The internet is a sociopathic bully who has no problem dishing out the worst insults towards you with no remorse. But you're more strong-willed than you think you are, so you mustn't give in. Otherwise, they'll just shit on you harder. Rule 15. The harder you try, the harder you will fail. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. The more overconfident someone is on 4chan, the harder everyone else will pile on the anon and dunk them into oblivion. The slang BTFO, meaning blown the out, comes into play here, where making riskier boasts for more clout means more ego to lose, which is why controversy hits different for bigger creators. It's like a career-wide nuclear bomb, with the severity of the controversy determining the impact of the blast, and the influence of the creator determining the location of the strike. A meteorite striking a YouTuber with 600 subscribers isn't going to have the same impact on the internet as said meteorite hitting PewDiePie or MrBeast, unless commentary YouTubers circulate the story around the community. Yeah, the commentary community is kind of a wild card and plays a bigger role in the internet ecosystem than we'd like to believe. Channels like EDP445 and Sky Does Minecraft and Leafy is Here had absolutely huge subscriber counts, so their downfalls had massive implications and sent shockwaves to their respective communities. Rule 16. If you fail in epic proportions, it may just become a winning failure. Task failed successfully. Always look on the bright side and never be afraid to laugh at yourself. Almost every hilarious 4chan thread in existence came into fruition unexpectedly, and even when a big stunt doesn't pan out, you could still make the virtual history books if your epic fail leads to good. In the early 2020s, MrBeast-styled content that involves big, grand, clickbaity challenge videos has a high potential for things to go horribly wrong. But what keeps a lot of these YouTubers successful is that they adapt. Say, for example, if the ball you're supposed to throw at the target deflates, a challenge YouTuber will find a different way to accomplish the task. Hell, look at the 2019 Area 51 raid. Officially, according to the movement's goals, Storm Area 51 failed on all accounts. However, it was still a success in that it made meme culture reach new heights. A bunch of people got to dress up as aliens and party in the middle of the desert, and local businesses in the area made a profit. It may have also inspired the 2021 Josh Schwain fight, which was an absolute win. Rule 17. Every win fails eventually. We're human. If we didn't need to worry about death, no matter how hard we try, we will end up making a mistake at some point. What can sometimes start out as a massive W can just as easily turn into a fat L, but just by anon oversharing, getting greedy, or having a shitty take. The longer someone is on the internet, the more likely they are to get involved in a controversy, whether that be due to their own actions or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And when that happens, you're gonna get haters. It's a bloody fight for the top of the e-celebrity game, and with the exception of creators who are too big to fail, and those who can deal with the burnout by adapting with their research and observation skills, fame doesn't last forever. If you get too comfortable in your niche, eventually people will get sick of you and move on to the next up-and-coming channel, which is why you've probably seen a rise in people trying to maximize their profit and completely milk their 15 seconds of fame for all it's worth before it slips through their fingers. Belle Delphine made millions off of a few viral memes and ran with the money, which is a rare example of someone fully utilizing an opportunity that was given to them with their maximum brain potential. Usually living memes try too hard to stay relevant using the same old joke they got famous for and coast off the fact that they're king of the world for now, and that actually ends up accelerating their decline. Moral of the story is don't get consumed by the present because the future is always changing. Rule 18. Everything that can be labeled can be hated. This really sucks, but it's true. Assholes who think they're better than everyone else will always find something to dunk on you for, even if it's unfair or in bad faith. You have a different gender than anon? Incels will dunk on you for that. You have a different religion? Hell, you have a religion? You're getting dunked on for that. You're not based? That makes you cringy. You guys are getting dunked on for that. You have a different political opinion? Hey, y'all know what I'm about to say. Hell, even if there aren't any differences between two anons, some people will go out of their way to invent differences just so they can label themselves as superior. The I'm better than you post common on Twitter or Reddit, or more commonly known as the cynical I hate normies who do this posts, is one of the core pillars of the peak 4chan experience, along with green texts, the 0 or 200 IQ coin flip post, whatever the hell this is, and inside jokes. Am I forgetting something? Yeah, right. 4chan in particular, especially in recent years, is known for hate. As much as I can be fascinated by the anomaly that is 4chan and its impact on memes and internet culture,
I don't really go on the site, and hate is one of the main reasons why. Legend has it some of these profound intellectuals have such a way with words that just by a mere glance you can feel the seething, heavy-breathing, sweat-driven, pent-up jealousy of those who scribe these sacred copypastas. It's almost impressive how anons on /poll have figured out how to find a way to hate every single group of people ever. In fact, they invent new groups of people just to discriminate against them, characteristics mere mortals could never dream of. But that's just a racist subsection of 4chan, which is just a moderately sized anarchy site within the internet. In the more mainstream side, this hateful mindset type beat is still there, it's just more directed at popular fandoms instead of, harmful stereotypes. Like, if a game or music artist becomes popular enough, you start seeing people hating on it simply because they see it everywhere, and the inside joke becomes an outside joke. And then people start misusing it, and then people market it as plushies, and next thing you know, you're no longer unique for liking this one thing, because other people like this and don't make it their whole personality. There's a whole debate relating to gatekeeping and whether or not it's justified, which is only becoming more important as companies in the modern age try to turn every little franchise into a multi-billion-dollar brand akin to SpongeBob, The Simpsons, or Garfield. And as someone who's been on both sides of this before, I really think that this shit is stupid and that you shouldn't let a cringy fandom prevent you from enjoying a piece of media if you really like it. Rule 19. The more you hate something, the stronger it gets. Relating to Rule 14, people say inflammatory statements on the internet and then turn their notifications off, usually because they got popcorn nearby. Remember that seething anon you pissed off who was angrily typing those copypastas that you're never going to actually read, wasting hours of their life in the process? Has it gotten to the point where they're ripping their hair out in a frenzy just from your existence? Congratulations, you now have power over this person. Curiously, some creators have channeled this sevium, as I call it, into an energy source and use it to power their careers. They come off as pieces of shit, but I guess that doesn't really matter when you're making money. One of the biggest examples of this is what I like to call the stone toss effect. There's this guy, his name is Stone Toss Comics, and Stone Toss makes political cartoon webcomics that, while sometimes hilarious, imply some far-fetched takes, to say the least, ones that I definitely don't agree with. But biases aside, he has a few 100,000 followers on Twitter, and it goes without saying he's very controversial. Despite this, he seems to be making bank, and is somehow managing to market himself really successfully on Twitter. Now, you may be asking, if someone as delusional as him can figure out how to make a living from the internet, then why can't I figure out how to move out of my mom's basement? Well, I think the secret is hate readers. On Twitter, people constantly complain about him. I guess on the light end estimate, there's probably 3 negative comments about his silly comics for every positive one. But borrowing from math, if you take the derivative of what everyone's saying, the bottom line is his username is being mentioned in all of them. Going off of the saying, all publicity is good publicity, controversy makes people curious. They check out his comics, and a few of them who never would have discovered him otherwise become fans. His follower count increases. There's a whole subreddit dedicated to shitting on him called r/Antifa Stone Toss with 90,000 members and daily posts of far-left edits to his far-right comics. Well, guess what? That generates traffic to his account, which causes him to grow, which makes haters even more pissed at his success. Well, no wonder he's growing. He's got extra money to invest in himself since all his haters are letting him live rent-free in their heads. Rule 20. Nothing is to be taken seriously. Anons have a sense of humor. Like Eric Andre or Filthy Frank, some people roleplay as exaggerated versions of themselves, and sometimes say ridiculous things online because realistically, no actual person could possibly be half that crazy and still function. We've started to see a weird effect though. With enough time, if you're living in the internet, eventually you may become the persona you're using. Kind of like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. You just gotta look back to the old English class story. I hate to be the boring lecture guy, but let's just run through it one more time. One day, Dr. Jekyll decided to form a comedy group with his friends called $1 Million Extreme, where he acted for the part of Sam Hyde, this real-life troll of sorts, who says outlandish, nonsensical things and acts in ridiculous ways, with this really, really weird fixation on blacks and Jews. Eventually, you couldn't tell if Jekyll was playing the part or if the part was playing him. Years later, if you look at him now, Jekyll is long gone. with Hyde having completely taken over, and he uses the confusion of which is real and which is a persona to get away with mass shootings every 6 months. But wait, hold on. What do fact checkers have to say about this? Well, most of it is bullshit. But with the rise of conspiracy theories, you can never tell if someone is joking about their views anymore, although there are ways to tell sometimes. For example, if it was posted on 4chan, then it's most likely a meme. Too bad the QAnons didn't get a memo on that. The fact that it's just text and you can't see what's the intended tone behind it also adds to statements getting potentially misinterpreted. Text can't sound sarcastic. This gets exacerbated when people purposely spread misinformation and fake news, and genuinely hateful people using "you don't understand, it's just a joke" to spread horrible messages further complicates things. But remember, don't take anything online too seriously. Even if someone is trying to cyberbully you, not giving them the satisfaction of letting them get to you will either make them bored and move on, or incite a reaction from them that's even more hilarious and embarrassing than the one they were trying to get from you. Rule 21. Original content is original only for a few seconds before getting old. This rule was true back in the late 2000s, but has only gotten truer as time goes on. On 4chan, new posts are always overshadowing old ones, and threads get deleted after a while, but the community, being tight-knit, remained relatively consistent with their inside jokes. Back then, anons could post a meme they made in 2007, quit the internet for 5 years, come back in 2012 and repost the same meme, and it would probably get a similar reaction. However, by 2015 or 2016, the lifespan of the average meme decreased to a few months. This was probably due to the mainstream adoption of Twitter, Instagram, and Vine. However, TikTok, and then later its copycat YouTube Shorts, with its optimization of short-form content, has decreased this lifespan even further, to mere weeks, sometimes even days. The length of the average viral TikTok is 9 to 15 seconds. A typical TikTok user spends on average 1 hour 35 minutes per day on TikTok, which gives us around 1,140 different shorts watched per day. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to remember the content of 1,000 shorts when I wake up tomorrow, which is why it seems like modern viral stars seem to fade into the forgotten abyss about just as fast as they blow up. I will say though, what probably wasn't known at the time due to memes being a newer concept back then, but we know now is that around every 5 to 7 years or so, meme culture comes full circle and retro and vintage content from the previous time period get memes made about them, or hell, the memes themselves suddenly become relevant again. The years of 2016 to 2018 saw a huge revival of memes relating to songs from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like Firefly, All-Star, Take On Me, and My Boo. 2022 to early 2023 saw a mix of short-form trends based on both modern songs and songs from the early 2010s. The mysterious YouTube algorithm seems to randomly promote relatively short home videos from random people released 11 to 15 years ago, which is honestly really cool to see, and I almost always click on those when I see them pop up on my feed. Rule 22. Copy pasta is made to ruin every last bit of originality. Copy pasta is made to ruin every last bit of originality. A copy pasta is a wall of text that contains the most random crap that's kind of used to spam or acts as a distraction when you watch a traumatic YouTube video and nobody knows where the original text comes from, usually 4chan. If something you say makes it into a copy pasta, you should either be honored or reconsider your life choices. Rule 23. Copy pasta is made to ruin every last bit of originality. Copy pasta is made to ruin every last bit of originality. A copy pasta is a wall of text that contains the most random crap that's kind of used to spam or acts as a distraction when you watch a traumatic YouTube video and nobody knows where the original text comes from, usually 4chan. If something you say makes it into a copy pasta, you should either be honored or reconsider your life choices. Rule 24. Every repost is always a repost of a repost. You'd think that in this day and age that it's impossible to not know where something came from, with the age of video essays, internet culture documentaries, and Ramble finding the location of every goddamn picture on the planet, but you'd be surprised to find that there's a lot of stuff on this virtual space that has unknown origins. Sometimes posts get deleted when they're small, sometimes something is just too obscure. I mean, look at all the YouTube videos out there with less than 10 views. It's crazy. Hell, we don't even know the true identity behind some of the most famous meme figures. And with general trends such as vibes and aesthetics, that's so abstract people can't even explain what it is they're borrowing from their inspirations. Now, There's a debate over here over the use of copyright and what should and shouldn't count as infringement. On 4chan, every anon is, well, anonymous, so there's no point in taking credit for something because it won't be able to be traced back to you anyway. Mr. Beast don't give a crap if you repost his content, but then again, he has the luxury of being the most recognizable influencer ever with over 200 million subs. Smaller content creators who just gotta pay rent or spend weeks or months on a project only to have some other guy unfairly benefiting from their hard work makes my blood boil. Reaction content is lazy and steals views from the original creators. There's no way to deny that. However, sometimes a larger streamer showing off a smaller creator's video could convince some viewers that had previously not heard of them to check out the rest of their channel. I personally don't really agree with this and don't think that the benefit from this outweighs the downside, but I'd rather touch on both sides here because this is a complicated issue. Video essay channels documenting the biography of a content creator should use clips of the subject's video since it provides the necessary context for what they're talking about. And the same thing goes if you're dunking on a shitty YouTuber apology and breaking down exactly why it's shitty. Fair use is and should be a thing, and creators shouldn't care if someone reposts a legendary 8-second quote of their 30-minute video. Most of the time, every resource you're using to make the video comes from somewhere else. It's usually a good idea to credit the original source when you're reusing someone else's media though, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't always do this, but it is the respectful thing to do, and I will try to do that more going forward. Rule 25. Relation to the original topic decreases with every single post. 4chan thread, Twitter thread, Reddit thread, go to the first one you see and look at literally any post there. Hell, scroll down to the comment section of this video and look at the replies. By the time you get to reply number 20 or so, you can't even tell what the original comment was about, because everyone's going to be talking about that German dude with the weird mustache. It's because we easily get distracted, and in some ways internet conversations are like schoolyard conversations with your friends. 10 minutes later, you guys are not going to be talking about the same thing, and it's interesting how that behavior is mimicked when put on the screen. Rule 26. Any topic can easily be turned into something totally unrelated. On 4chan, this refers to when an anon replies to a post with a picture of a cat or anime girl, which turns it into a cat or anime thread. On the broader internet, this usually happens when a creator with a controversial past posts something that's not controversial. Go into the replies and there's always going to be that one guy expressing their take about the controversy, even if this particular video has nothing to do with it. And then of course, everyone's going to respond with their takes, and oh boy, if they disagree. And it devolves into a flame war that isn't even about the original creator anymore, and it's just about who can come up with the best Yo Mama joke. And seeing that play out in real time is actually pretty funny. Rule 27. Always question a person's sexual preferences without any real reason. Now, I'm not telling you whether I want a Futanari Dami Mami Neko maid to tie me up, crush my balls, and choke me with a shock collar. Now fuck off. Jokes aside, we've all been there. Where being the fact that someone makes an oddly specific fetish joke and the other guy has a really weird reaction and then tries to claim that they're not actually into it when they actually are, and then just keeps digging a grave where it's like, you could have just laughed and moved on and be done with it. Like, it hits different if you're equipped with the knowledge that they're into that shit. Literally, so many creators could have avoided being labeled as a degenerate if they just didn't joke about their kinks at all the damn time, and then subsequently got all awkward about it. Like, say someone is explaining away, well, you see, I don't think you understand. They're over 1,000 years old, and they're just drawing, so what if she looks 12? It's not weird at all. Lolicon isn't the same as like a kid. Immediately after making a lolicon joke, when that happens, it's like, your lolicon joke made me laugh and gave absolutely no indication that you were a lolicon, because it should be a given that you were a minimum standard decent human being, but the fact that you thought I was suspecting you are when I really wasn't is intriguing to me, because if you weren't a lolicon, then that shouldn't have even be crossing your mind, and now you're trying to convince me something that didn't even need convincing in the first place, and shit just gets weird. It's like that video of the guy watching the sus anime. I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. I'll be showing it on the screen. It's a really funny video. Anyway, time to move on. Rule 28. Always question a person's gender, just in case it's really a man. Rule 29. In the internet, all girls are men and all kids are undercover FBI agents. The art of catfishing, posing as the opposite gender and luring in vulnerable, romantically desperate souls into a few month-long virtual relationships in order to extort money, free Discord Nitro, Robux, or content for a 20-minute-long compilation video. This is a horrible, scummy thing to do, unless you're trying to catch a suspected pedophile in the act. I feel like this happens a lot less nowadays since most people are more comfortable with stuff like femboys and traps and reverse traps and reverse traps. I mean, by default, most people assume it's a guy saying something if they see a post made by an anon, which is partly due to inherent bias, but also because most people who use 4chan are young men. Since it's all anonymous, there's nothing stopping an anon from just posing as a girl and saying whatever they want, and this applies as well to Reddit, YouTube comments, and Twitter, which leads to funny incidents like this. Hey there buddy, I think you forgot to switch to your alt account. As for the kids being FBI agents, yeah, that's essentially the exposing predators on Discord via fake kids type beat. Rule 30. There are no girls on the internet. I initially wasn't sure about this one and thought it was just more related to the previous two rules, but the TV tropes explanation was pretty good, so here you go. Due to being anonymous and gender being a moot point, saying you are a girl usually denotes the poster is not a girl and is just saying this to get attention, or is a girl really just trying to get attention. Either way, trying to get everyone's attention is a trolling tactic. Ignore them. Girl? What girl? We're all anons, which essentially means that gender's just kind of a meme and pretty irrelevant for most posts. People aren't reading what you have to say because of your gender, they're reading it because they're curious and interested in what you have to say. Although today it does seem like factors such as gender, race, and sexual orientation of the person saying it are becoming more relevant, since you can't make certain types of jokes without getting approval by the special counsel of 14-year-old white girls, who are the only girls on the internet. Rule 31. Tits or get the f*** out. The choice is yours. Remember 4chan's main demographic? Yeah, that comes into play here. If an anon reveals that they're a girl, they're gonna get a lot of attention from horny, desperate incel guys, whether it's misogyny or begging for an e-date. According to 4chan logic, supposedly this would lead to either flirting or posting or suggestive photo or something so their cynical asses say,
My fellow Americans, I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
And in order to not waste time on the whole rigmarole, either post your tits or get the f*** out. Because that's what every girl sets out to do when they go on the internet and want to talk about a cool new Pokemon they found. I think the logic is more akin to if a bunch of guys online know you're a girl, they'll treat you differently, and while Discord e-girls and Twitch thoughts use this to make a profit, this is also used as an excuse for a bunch of middle-aged basement dwellers to be super sexist. Rule 32. You must have pictures to prove your statements. On the web, you can say whatever you want. In fact, the worst cases of misinformation and hoaxes in recent years have been due to mass amounts of young, impressionable boomer white men listening to other boomer white men spewing shit. It may be too late for their Alzheimer's asses, but for the next generation, I think one thing that should be taught in schools more is how to verify information. Now, sure, we have the Twitter fact checkers, but they're kind of just a meme. Besides, Twitter has always been an absolutely horrible source for actual information. The only exception is maybe covering influencer drama, but even when the primary source is directly in front of you and limited to 280 characters, users will still manage to get confused. Usually, though, the higher barriers to entry and credentials you need in order to put information out on the site, the more accurate the site is. Usually. This isn't always true, but it's at least a good rule of thumb. Even though teachers like to meme on Wikipedia, I feel like it's gotten better over the years in terms of hosting accurate and unbiased information. But say you're not a level 99 internet researcher with 5 degrees, a PhD, and 10 years of experience in the field, but you really want to prove this other anon wrong to win a 5-hour flame war. Well, one thing you can do is post a picture. See, anon? I told you I have a limited edition mint condition copy of the Apple Pumpkin Spice Go-Go Squeeze. Here's a totally not doctored picture to prove it. Usually when it comes to stupid crap like this, it's easy to verify just by posting a picture. However, even then, you gotta be careful that someone doesn't just pull it out of Google Images. This is what reverse image searching is for sometimes 4chan and Reddit ask for IRL timestamps, which is when you hold out a note next to your picture with the current date, or you can record a video. Those are a lot harder to edit than still pictures. Going from there, faking something in real time while streaming is exponentially harder to fake than faking a video. In fact, at this point, you might as well just go outside and prove it in person. One community that manages this pretty well is a speedrunning community. As for some games, getting a position in the top spot requires you to stream it live, and it's encouraged to also provide a video feed of your controller in order to ensure your button presses align with what's happening on screen. This rule has also come in handy in covering old internet phenomena. Trying to describe what the YouTube layout looked like in 2007 would be near impossible to do. If it weren't for internet historians, archives, and screenshots, the current generation would have no way of knowing what annotations, the 5-star rating system, video responses, or dislikes are. Maybe you would know if you lurked some more. Rule 33. Lurk more. It's never enough. Lurking is basically when you act like a spy sneaking into an unfamiliar party and you don't know the etiquette or slang of the place, so you kind of hang out in the back, hide in the crowd, lay low, observe for a while until you ease your way into the community and gradually gain everyone's trust. It sounds a lot less cool online, in which it involves just reading a bunch of text and looking at memes for months until you finally have the courage to post something yourself and everyone calls you the gay slur. And you think, damn, maybe I didn't lurk enough. At some point, you just gotta take a chance. Who cares if you make a mistake? You're not expected to know everything from the beginning. That's a part of the reason why you joined the community in the first place. It's because you want to learn more about what you're interested in. On 4chan, it's recommended for newcomers to lurk for a while before making their first post, so they don't sound out of touch. Even in communities that act more welcoming to newcomers, everyone kind of inadvertently does this, don't lie. Rule 34. There is porn of it, no exceptions. Probably the most famous rule out of all of them. It even comes with its own website featuring a lot of, hey, don't think I don't notice what you just did there. As soon as you clicked on this video, you looked at the little chapter indicator things below the red bar and went straight here, because you were curious about what I had to say on this rule. Well, if you don't know what this word means, it's not my place to tell you. And you're either too young to be watching this video in the first place, or you're so pure the average internet user would shrivel up and disintegrate in your holy presence. In which case, be patient. Your parents will pass down that knowledge to you when you're good and ready. As for the remaining 99.5% of you, you already know exactly what this rule means and don't need me to explain it to you. All I can say is, yes, there really, truly are no exceptions. No exceptions. Rule 35. If no porn is found at the moment, it will be made. It's that third inevitable thing along with death and taxes. Rule 36. There will always be even more fucked up shit than what you just saw. 7 billion people on the planet. Sometimes it just seems like there's always going to be someone better than you. On the plus side, there's always going to be someone worse than you too. In some ways, TikTok and 4chan aren't so different from each other. On both sites, you're bragging about how many mental illnesses you have. The only difference is on TikTok, you're giving out your explicit victim stat, while on 4chan, it's implicitly hidden and you've got to read between the lines. By read between the lines, I mean scroll down the thread a bit and someone probably posted porn, gore, or worse. We've all been there. You're around 13 to 15 years old and your friend from school says he has a funny meme to show you and you trust him since he has a good track record of making you laugh, and you look towards his phone only to get jebaited and the meme suddenly cuts to a guy blowing his brains out with a shotgun. And when that happens, you think you've seen it all. But then your local meme dealer laughs at your reaction and says, I remember when I couldn't stomach stuff like this and now it's just funny. And you think to yourself, why the f*** am I friends with this person again? It's not worth the trouble of getting added to whatever watch list he's on. No, that's just me. Well, I'm ConnectSnyder41, and this is my story. Now, if I was a Redditor, I'd probably shoehorn it into an answer for a question about childhood trauma on r/AskReddit, but I'm not a Redditor. So instead, the only person who gets to hear it is a significant other or best friend sitting in bed with me after 1 a.m. But it doesn't matter, because as the rule states, there will always be someone who can one-up it. In a way, this sentiment just kind of reflects 4chan's cynicism as a whole. It sounds like a "you want pity points? The line's a mile long, kid" type beat, the polar opposite of the modern safe space type beat we've come to know and love. Rule 37. You cannot divide by 0, just because the calculator says so. Okay, this is the part of the rule set that starts to show its age. Back in the late 2000s, dividing by 0 was a popular phrase in 4chan and the general internet to a lesser extent. Legend says if you divide by 0, the time-space continuum implodes, but in reality, nothing actually happens. You just get a weird message on your calculator. See? It says, "Oh Rule 38. No real limits of any kind apply here, not even the sky. The internet is kind of like an interconnected pocket dimension. It's a portal that links people together, but it's also a virtual storage of ideas, information, and games. The sky isn't even the limit in our world, so why the hell would it be for the web? If the sky is what blocked us, we wouldn't even be able to get past the Windows XP screensaver. Kinda shows how far we've come in the past 30 years. Ordinary people can broadcast whatever they want to millions of worldwide viewers using nothing but passion, talent, and hard work. And a little bit of luck. The 2020 lockdowns, as well as the hikikomori phenomenon, have proven that it's entirely possible to live solely off of an internet connection, and you can get all essential supplies and services without ever needing to leave your own home. Granted, that comes at a massive cost of having severely poor mental health. I can speak from experience, but being terminally online is normal in our modern society. The most recent numbers say over 9 out of every 10 households in the US are connected, and with billions of people using certain sites, it's shaping the real world just as much as the real world is shaping it. Inside jokes that started out on 4chan led to people actually going out and influencing real-world events, whether that be good or bad. International conventions for furries, weebs, bronies, and other dorks to gather have been propelled by the internet. Instead of saying your girlfriend goes to another school or lives in Canada, you can say you're e-dating. Countries can go to war over Google Maps disputes or their world leaders getting ratioed on one of their tweets. You get the idea. See, now this is a 4chan rules of the internet thing after all, so where does the green clover fit into it? Endless creativity. Say what you want about the users and how toxic they are, but you gotta admit a lot of legendary posts come from it. Users usually either have 0 IQ or 200 IQ, with no in between, and you end up getting some of the most consistently inconsistent logic ever. Hell, some of these rules are incredibly dumb, but they still get proven right time and time again. Absolutely anything can become a meme, except for Milhouse. F*** him. Rule 39. Caps lock is cruise control for cool. Apparently, using all capital letters to express shouting or extreme emotion has been a thing since the 1800s. Since the internet involves a lot of written texts, remnants of the olden times managed to sneak its way in. The caps lock button itself isn't really used all that much, especially since holding shift can achieve pretty much the same effect. It was a small meme on 4chan back in the 2000s, I guess. On a car, with cruise control allows you to set your driving at a specific speed and you can take your foot off the gas. I think this analogy was made because when you use caps lock, it's easier to spam lots of text, it takes up more space on the page, and it has the mental effect of resembling a bunch of shouting and emotions being thrown in your face. 4chan, being the trolls they are, can use this to achieve maximum effect in getting a rise out of you. Rule 40. Even with cruise control, you still have to steer. Everything is good in moderation. You can't just constantly type in all caps, otherwise people will instantly assume you're an obvious troll and it won't take you seriously. Caps lock is a tool. Use it strategically or when you mean it, and it will be very effective. Rule 41. Desu isn't funny. Seriously guys, it's worse than Chuck Norris jokes. Desu is the late 2000s/early 2010s equivalent to well, and Chuck Norris is an actor who everyone used to meme mod how he was the most powerful badass being ever. Before Shaggy came along. But no matter the time period, there will always be outsiders complaining about how cringy the latest memes and trends are. Believe me, I've done my fair share of that. Sometimes you have to remember that when we look back fondly in our childhood nostalgia, we're blocking out all the shit that either sucked or wasn't good enough to make the aesthetic. Not everything in the late 2000s and 2010s was all Gucci, as much as we want to think that. There was a financial crisis almost as bad as the Great Depression. Sites were being hacked left and right. There were plenty of blatant corporate cash grab mediocre movies. You couldn't watch YouTube videos in HD, cyberbullying had just become a thing, gay marriage had only just become legal in 2015, and while it seems like that in the 2020s there's always some creator getting ousted for attempting to date an underage child, it's not like this didn't happen 10 to 15 years before. There are probably many horror stories of anons from 2005 to 2019 that we will just never hear, either because the victims aren't around to tell it, they don't feel comfortable telling it, or they don't have anyone to tell it to. And there were haters back then too. Even bringing this back to 4chan, nowadays you may see a lot of boomers, coomers, doomers, and zoomers complaining about how the internet was so much better back in the good old days, but they fail to realize that people complained about it in the good old days too. Lots of people in the post-COVID era miss 2019, but let me tell you, back in 2019, we wished it was 2016, and in 2016, we wished it was 2012, and in 2012, we wished it was 2009, and in 2009, we wished it was 2007, and in 2007, nobody really wished for a different time, because back in 2007, it was actually cool. They had Linkin Park, Smosh, and the Wii, and that's all you really need, honestly. What I'm saying is you can pretty much replace Desu and Chuck Norris jokes with pretty much any memes, and there will be someone who believed it at the time, making this outdated rule outlive them all. Rule 42. Nothing is sacred. No one is immune from the law, including the lawmakers themselves. This rule in particular is basically 4chan's version of the golden rule. You enter the arena, you don't get no invincibility frames, you're fair game just like the rest of them. You're not special, you certainly don't have an N-word pass, even if you're black. You become an anon and your pass gets temporarily revoked while using the site. Yeah, that's right, if you say it on 4chan, there's no way to make it not racist. That's part of the peak faceless experience. Your messages can't be traced back to you for the most part, so you can pretty much get away with saying anything. And people do. No matter where you look in a thread, there will always be someone raining on your parade, and either be vicious for no reason, changing the subject, or calling you the gay slur. There will always be someone ready to play devil's advocate just to screw at you. If something can be disagreed on, people will disagree. Cynicism has always existed. Hell, it's not just a 4chan phenomenon. It feels like for every YouTube video I watch, if you go to the comments section and sort by new, there's always some really grumpy negative Nancy complaining, completely tearing apart the subject matter of the video. And that's life. We all kind of don't care to a degree about something someone else likes, and it's perfectly natural. Now, the optimal thing to do when you see someone being annoying is about something you don't care about is just frickin' move on with your life. See Bob here? He sees something he doesn't like, he goes on with his day. By leaving a comment meant to ruin someone's day like that just makes you come off as a dick. But it also works the other way around too. If you can't handle criticism, that's just gonna lead you to more criticism, and then you'll come off as a whiny little bitch. With stan culture, we seem to forget that these creators, while having millions of followers, are human just like us. They started out with relatively normal lives and worked their way up to the top. And if they try to act like their larger platform allows them to avoid consequences for shitty actions, then it's up to us to pull them back down to reality. Rule 43. The more beautiful and pure a thing is, the more satisfying it is to corrupt it. This one's related to the previous rule, nothing is sacred. Like, you see something and it's so pure and wholesome that you don't trust it. Like, it's unrealistic. And then it gets revealed the purity was just an act the entire time and the real thing is super degenerate. This is usually the case with the VTubers, but it can be applied to lots of things. Memes sometimes have this effect where they get super dank and get deep fried until it's transformed beyond repair and you can't even remember what the original meme was. Or sometimes it's just funny trying to match polar opposites and succeeding. In March 2020, there was the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons and Doom Eternal on the same day, and a bunch of fan art was made, even though Animal Crossing is the most wholesome game ever and is as far away as you could get from the bloodshed of the Doom series. There was also lots of Rule 34 of it. In fact, Rule 34 is part of the reason why this rule exists, as well as the one before it. A lot of more infamous examples of this are memes, probably because it's so horrific we have to laugh at it as a coping mechanism to soften the shock we initially get from the fact that someone put time and effort into making that. I could go on a spiel about yin and yang on the internet and the power of balance, but sometimes this shit is just really f***ed up. You can't use this rule as a way to explain away the inhumane amount of lolly hentai on 4chan/B and Discord mods stating they're kittens. So instead, I'll say I kind of disagree with this one. There are plenty of counterexamples, including from 4chan itself, that blows this rule out of the water. Sometimes people just want to contribute some good to make someone else's day better. Rule 44. Even one positive comment about Japanese things can make you a weeaboo. For those of you on the younger side, a weeaboo is the old internet slang version of weeb. Urban Dictionary says there's a difference between the two, but honestly, I don't think the majority of us care that much about the distinction. Regardless, when you think of the typical anime enjoyer, a certain personality type and aesthetic probably comes to mind. In a way, this rule is calling out the bullies who label outsiders just as much as it's calling out weebs. The so-called normies think them Chinese cartoons are all the same and will scream it at the top of their lungs in the replies or comment section. Nowadays, however, anime is so globalized and mainstream that you may have heard some of that new kid generation slang being thrown around and need to know just how infected you are with cringe. Well, luckily, I've got you covered, so here's a quick test to determine if you're uncultured swine or the next William Fancy Son. You understand the JoJo's or Demon Slayer references? Weeb. Have you played Genshin Impact, Nier Automata, Xenoblade Chronicles, Persona, or any game with the words Neko-chan or Doki Doki in the title? Definitely a weeb. Can you use any of the following poorly translated Japanese words or phrases in a sentence, such as tsundere, otaku, waifu, nani, omae wa mou shinderu, oni-chan, baka, yandere, hikikomori, yuri, emoto, fudanari, or hentai? Yeesh, the shower's over there, why don't you try it? And finally, do any of your favorite YouTubers or streamers use an avatar and pitched up voice modifier to assume the role of a fantasy character, possibly with specific animal traits, even though they're just doing normal shit like playing video games and watching videos? Well then, welcome to the exclusively exquisite club of ultimate culture, and good luck finding a romantic partner that won't put you on the sex offender registry. But yeah, overall, don't get too fixated on labels. There's nothing wrong with appreciating a good anime since, after all, some of them are really, really good, sometimes even better than American mainstream media. But don't think you're suddenly a connoisseur on all things Japanese culture just because you played a few visual novels. Rule 45. When one sees a lion, one must get into the car. Man sees lion, man gets in the car. This is just an outdated meme. In 2006, people used to spam, "Jesus Christ, it's a lion! Get in the car!" Like, people just said the phrase. Damn, memes back then were so basic. I almost miss it. Rule 46. There is always furry porn of it. What? Rule 47. The pool is always closed. And now we reach the final rule, the pool rule. This is a reference to the famous Habbo hotel raids of the mid-2000s. Other YouTubers have covered this super in-depth, and I'm not really gonna give the full experience of it justice here, but the general vibe was hordes of black avatars with afros raiding the Habbo hotel site, forming a border around the pool area, blocking everyone from accessing it, and because this was 2005, a joke spawned that it was due to AIDS. This spread so much that it made national news when some jokester got a real pool to close in 2008, and people have dressed up as the iconic avatar, which is pretty cool. Except for the fact that some of them arranged themselves to form YouTube demonetization symbols, but what do you expect coming from 4chan? People don't really seem to talk about this nowadays. Habbo Hotel itself has been long gone from the mainstream, and I don't see it returning again. Well, that was long. Way longer than I was expecting it to be. But funny how over 90% of these rules are not only still relevant 15 years later, but essential to understanding how internet culture actually works, as well as the logic of the modern generation. People who were adults in the 1990s will never understand what it's like to already have access to anything at your fingertips growing up from birth. This post was created way back around like 2006 or 2007, and nowadays a lot of users seem to forget some of these rules and have to learn the hard way, allowing the cycle to repeat itself and creating yet another example that will make the internet history books, which BT dubs is the most definitely going to be a thing in a decade or two. Fellow content creators are already understanding the importance of memes, social media, and making video essays and case studies and analyses as if it were a class. The internet's going to be here to stay, so you might as well learn how to use it and what you should and shouldn't do. Otherwise, you might find yourself on the wrong side of a quarrel with a bunch of anonymous Chuck Norris idolizing, trolling, furry drawing, afroed weeaboos in tuxedos not afraid to divide by zero.
What's up, guys? This is Next Native 41, and this is kind of the bonus section of the video. I guess the following here are rules of the internet according to TV tropes. Their list differs a bit from this famous 4chan post. I'm not going to edit this as much, so this is just, bonus part of the video. Let's go. Rule 10, TV tropes version. /B is not your personal army. They can recognize bait from a mile away. The trolling that /B does happens naturally. You can't use them to settle petty personal drama. The people doing the trolling have got minds of their own, and surprisingly, better things to do with their time. Rule 11, TV tropes version. No matter how much you love debating, keep in mind that no one on the internet debates. Instead, they mock your intelligence as well as your parents. Nowadays, this isn't really true. People debate all the time. It's just that they're all shallow, stubborn as hell, don't argue in good faith, have too much pride to admit they're wrong, and don't know enough about the topic they're supposedly debating to be able to back up their claims with sources, rendering their opinion completely useless. But back then, flame wars were involved calling each other idiots, slurs, and your mom jokes, and it was much easier to win, quote, debates by turning it into a meme. Instead, now we've regressed to brain-inflated, pseudo-intellectual mudslinging. Rule 44, TV tropes version. If it exists, there is a version of it for your fandom, and it has a wiki and possibly a tabletop version with a theme song performed by a Vocaloid. People are dedicated, with the most dedicated being those special few who know how to make arts and crafts or program fan games. It requires serious talent for it to actually be cool, otherwise it comes off as something a 5-year-old made with crayon. For some reason, they're also usually weebs. Rule 46, TV tropes version. The internet is serious f***ing business. Another common phrase you'd encounter on forums on the web in 2006. TV tropes has also got some rules that go beyond the original 47, so here are these. Rule 48. The only good hentai is yuri, and that's how the internet works. Only exception may be vanilla. All I'ma say here is yuri means lesbian and vanilla means wholesome. As for whether this rule is true or not, I am not available to comment. Rule 49. No matter what it is somebody's fetish. Rule 50. A crossover, no matter how improbable, will eventually happen in fan art, fan fiction, or official release material, often through fan fiction of it. I mean, at this point, just look at who made it into Fortnite. I'd be surprised if Drake's Left a Nut doesn't make it in within the next year. Rule 62. It has been cracked and pirated. You can find anything if you look long enough. Have you seen the accomplishments and lengths the internet has gone to find lost media from the 1990s and 2000s? It's insane, and I definitely recommend checking that out. Rule 63. For every given male character, there is a female version of that character, and vice versa. And there is always porn of that character. The only reason I knew of this rule before making this video was because of TV, and I still haven't forgiven them. Rule 64. If it exists, there isn't an alternate universe of it. Rule 65. If there isn't, there will be. Rule 66. Everything has a fandom. Everything. Rule 67. 90% of fanfiction is the stuff of nightmares. Me and an online friend once read Zelda and Sonic's Day Out on stream as the start to a kind of weird media reading series. I think the fact we cancelled it after that first episode speaks for itself. Rule 70. Do not talk about the 100 million get failure. On 4chan, whenever you post or reply to something, it gets identified with a number, which by now is probably in the tens or hundreds of millions. If your post gets assigned a special number, such as 1,2222222, whatever, it's considered a get. I couldn't find much info to verify this, but TV Trope says that the get for a post 100 million was ruined because it was just some guy on /TV who wanted everyone to talk about movies instead. Rule 72. If a song exists, there's a Megalovania version of it. Megalovania is that famous song from Undertale, you know. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Rule 77. The internet makes you stupid. Aw, but that's part of the fun. Okay, that's kind of... I'm getting pretty bored of this now. See ya, guys.